Righto, so for today's episode of the FreeBSD challenge, I'm going to be talking about something a little bit different and something that doesn't actually have anything to do with using FreeBSD on my desktop, at least not directly. No, instead we're talking about the FreeBSD community, right now on the Linux Lounge. So this might seem like a bit of a weird thing to talk about, but personally I think it's quite important, since one of the major reasons why a lot of people use Linux is the community. There are thousands of fantastic people out there who use Linux because they love the system, and they're more than happy to share their enthusiasm for it, whether that be through helping people on the forums or in chat rooms, creating Linux media, or any other number of things. Today I want to have a look at the BSD community to see if it's a similar way. Now personally I'm not the biggest user of chat rooms or forums, but sometimes I do feel like having a chat or need to talk about a problem or something like that. Now I found no shortage of places to do that in the BSD community. The first place I looked was on Telegram. Now as it ends up, GhostBSD, the fork of FreeBSD I'm using, actually has an official Telegram group. So I use the official Telegram client, which works perfectly on BSD by the way, and is actually installed by default on GhostBSD to access that Telegram group. From there I was actually linked to two other BSD groups by some BSD users. Now, neither of these groups necessarily are the most active, but there are definitely people on there, and sometimes a quiet group is actually preferable to an extremely busy one, I find. Next I decided to check out the forums. The main reason for this is I had quite a few issues that I wanted to ask about, so I joined the FreeBSD forums and asked my questions, and I found that the forums are actually fairly active. More importantly, they seem to be very friendly. I'm new to BSD, so I expect that my questions probably look a little bit ridiculous to people who've been using it for a long time, but I never got an elitist response to any of my questions. I either got an answer to the question, some things I could try to resolve my issue, or a link to the appropriate manual page. I never got yelled at or given some other elitist response like I might expect to get in some other communities online. It's all very friendly, so that's always good, and it's a similar story with all the Telegram groups that I joined. The next thing that I wanted to have a look at is the BSD media content that's out there. So that's stuff like podcasts and YouTube videos. When it comes to Linux, there are a vast amount of different YouTube channels making various different kinds of videos, and there's a huge library of podcasts, and both of which cater to different niches. Sadly, on BSD, there isn't quite the sheer number of YouTube channels and podcasts that there are on Linux. Or if there are, sadly I haven't been able to find them. On the podcast front, I've been able to find BSD Now, which is quite an interesting podcast that I saw posted on the FreeBSD forums. A lot of it goes over my head as it goes to quite technical places, but it's still definitely interesting to listen to. On the YouTube front, things are sadly a bit scarce too, but I've still found some fantastic BSD content creators. The one that I've been watching at the moment are RoboNuggy, Duvalaki, and iBSD. I hope I'm pronouncing all of those right. They all make great videos, but on a vastly different schedule. RoboNuggy seems to upload impressively regularly, which is fantastic. Duvalaki's last upload was a month ago, but their backlog of content is extremely interesting, and it's the same story with iBSD. Their last upload was 10 months ago, but they still have an interesting and relevant backlog. Sadly, I do think that BSD is too much of a niche thing to support someone in such a way that would enable them to upload regularly, so like daily for instance, but it's still incredibly impressive just how many people there are out there making fantastic BSD content for the community to enjoy, and I'd highly suggest that you check out everyone I just mentioned, and if you have any suggestions for BSD content I should check out, let me know because I find it all to be incredibly interesting. But with that said, that's it for today's episode of the FreeBSD challenge. Join me tomorrow where I'll be talking about the software that's sadly lacking on FreeBSD. Thanks for watching.